Dear IB psychologists, this is our guide on how to master paper 3. Paper 3 is arguably the easiest paper in psychology, in IB psychology, because you know exactly what the questions are going to be, and all that you're tested on is your ability to analyze and remember certain things that you should already be capable of if you have done well on paper 1 and 2. So let's just go straight to the structure, because it's going to be the same for every single paper 3. The only thing changing is the study that they supply you with. So essentially how it works is that you get an unseen study and you need to answer 3 different sections on it. The first one is quite easy. It asks you to identify the research method and give 2 characteristics of that method. So there are different types of research methods are simply lab experiments, quasi-experiments, field experiments, and natural experiments. And for my personal favorite tip that I've received from my teacher is that if you're unsure what characteristic these research methods all have in common, for these quantitative ones, it's always measuring the effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable. And then there's also qualitative experiments, such as correlational research or surveys. And all of them are essentially trying to establish a cause and effect relationship. So this is how it works. First of all, you're going to receive a description of an unseen research study, basically a scenario describing what researchers did, and there you'll need to search for important cues. And to get better at this, as always, you should practice with past papers and try to extract the important information, because there will be a bunch of, let's say, fluff that is trying to distract you of the study's aim. And then you need to kind of extract and filter out the important things, such as the ethical considerations that the researchers have used. And then the second question, quickly jumping back, because these are quite easy, is the sampling methods. And they consist of purposive, volunteer, convenience, snowball, random, and that's all. So you'll just need to memorize these and 2 characteristics of them. For example, for purposive, it's just that people are picked on purpose to fit the study, as the name already says. So, and then for example, for snowball sampling, it's asking participants to recommend other participants. So it's kind of like a pyramid scheme. And then you also, it's good to know, they say 2 characteristics, but I would just say 1 characteristic and 1 benefit of the study, or 1 downside. That's kind of a better phrasing for me personally, because for example, for snowball sampling, you can remember that it's very well used for hard to find groups. And then let's move on to the second part now. It's ethics, and here you're going to have to know there are two different types of questions that the IB can ask you. First of all, it's describe ethical considerations and explain if further could be applied. So there are 5 main ethical considerations: deception, right to withdraw, informed consent, protection from harm, and confidentiality and or anonymity. And then most likely in the past papers I've done myself, it's always that in the text you're given 3 that have been either applied or not applied, and then you just say the other 3 that haven't been mentioned yet. So this is not very difficult. You get 1 mark for mentioning each of these different criteria. So throughout this paper, it's important to notice that the questions are getting increasingly difficult, however, with increasing amounts of points. And then the other ethics questions that could appear, question actually is just 2, is to describe the ethical considerations in reporting the results and explain if additional could have been applied in the reportings of the study. This is a bit more difficult, but just think about things such as honesty, integrity, not misleading the public, and avoid misinterpretation. So my tip here is that there will definitely be 3 ethical considerations, and you should look for ethically neutral, non-sensitive topics. Try to find these cues, and how to do that is by doing past papers. And that's the second tip. And the third question is based on either generalizability, credibility, or it's going to be about the transferability. So these three things sound very similar, but they're not. So it's very important that you begin by defining each of these terms and try to figure out, for example, for generalizability, can it be applied to other people? For bias, define bias, and then explain researcher bias, sampling bias, and then, for example, if your question happens to be about credibility, you need to define it first and then check for internal, external validity, these different things. So I hope this has helped. And the third question is worth 9 marks, and that's it. Paper 3 should be a straight 7.